In today's ever-changing world of technology, there's one group that often gets left behind in the rush to innovate: our seniors. They are the ones who built our communities, raised generations, and quietly laid the foundations of our lives. But as the years pass, many of them face loneliness, dependency, and the fear of losing their ability to care for themselves. And yet, there's a twist to the story. The very thing that once seemed distant, technology, is now becoming a trusted companion. It's no longer a complex tangle of buttons and screens. It has grown up. It listens, responds, and supports, just like a caring friend. In this video, we're going to explore 5 powerful technologies, small tools that can bring back independence, safety, and even joy to the lives of older adults. Picture this: you're a grandparent living in a quiet home in the suburbs. Your children are busy, your grandkids visit once in a while. One morning, sunlight spills through your window, but your knees ache and getting out of bed feels like a task. Now imagine you could simply say, "Turn on the lights," or "Call my daughter," and it just happens. That's what these tools can do. The first on our list is the smart speaker, like Amazon Echo or Google Nest. Now, don't think of it as just a fancy speaker. It's more like a gentle assistant that listens and responds. With a simple voice command, "Alexa, what's the weather today?" or "Hey Google, play my favorite song from the 60s, your world opens up. You can control lights, make calls, or even ask it to remind you to take your medication. For many older adults, especially those with mobility issues, the ability to interact with their environment without having to physically touch anything is life-changing. It reminds me of my grandmother back in Vietnam. On rainy days, she would sit by the window listening to the radio, not for news, but because it made her feel less alone. A smart speaker does that too, and more. It doesn't just talk, it understands. What's more, these little devices can create a real sense of connection. There's a gentleman in California, in his 80s, who shared that he feels less lonely because every morning, Alexa greets him, reminds him of his schedule, and even tells him jokes. It may sound small, but that tiny interaction is often the emotional spark that keeps the day going. That brings us to the second technology: smartwatches for seniors, like the Lively Watch or the Apple Watch SE. These aren't just timepieces, they're lifelines. They can monitor your heart rate, track your sleep, detect falls, and even call for help automatically. Imagine you're walking in your backyard and suddenly slip. Your watch can alert emergency services or notify a family member without you lifting a finger. The best part? These devices are getting easier to use. Big buttons, clear text, and simple designs. You don't need to be a tech expert. They're a bit like those old rubber sandals: simple, reliable, and incredibly useful. And perhaps most importantly, they restore a quiet kind of dignity. For seniors who often feel like a burden, the ability to manage small tasks on their own, like checking the weather or scheduling a doctor's appointment, is a reminder, I still have control. The third technology might not be something you can see at a glance, but it's always there, like a silent guardian: smart home sensors. Picture this: a cold winter afternoon. An elderly man lives alone on the 3rd floor of an old apartment. The wind whistles through the doorframe. Slowly, he makes his way to the bathroom, one hand steadying himself on the wall. But then, a soft thud. He slips. In that moment, without anyone nearby, the situation could become dangerous. But inside that little apartment, there are silent watchers, sensors quietly monitoring movement and sounds. They're not invasive. They don't film or record. But they're smart enough to notice irregular patterns: a sudden fall, an unusual period of stillness, or even the absence of routine activity. The moment something seems off, a signal is sent to a family member, a caregiver, or emergency services. Sometimes, a few seconds make all the difference between a full recovery and a tragic delay. We often think of technology as cold and mechanical. But these invisible eyes carry a kind of warmth, a digital form of care. They're like grandchildren who never sleep, always watching over their loved ones with gentle patience. The fourth technology sounds like something from a science fiction movie: companion robots and virtual pets. But for elderly people living alone, especially those facing cognitive decline, these companions are more than just novelties. Imagine an old woman spending her days in silence. No one to talk to. No laughter, no conversation. Then, one day, a small robot arrives. It might look like a puppy wagging its tail, or a cheerful screen that tells jokes, asks questions, and shares stories. To most people, it's just a device. But to her, it becomes a friend, one that never judges, never tires, and always listens. For someone with early dementia, the consistency of interaction, the routine, the emotional stimulation, it can be incredibly grounding. I once watched an 84-year-old woman gently stroke a robotic cat. "It's not real," she said with a laugh, "but it listens to me." Her eyes sparkled like a child's. In that moment, I realized, it's not about replacing real people. It's about creating connections, simple ones, but powerful enough to soften loneliness. Finally, there's one of the most understated yet powerful tools: devices that keep families close. Not social media, not apps with dozens of buttons, but digital photo frames that update automatically with pictures from loved ones. Or video calling devices that need only one touch to connect. No searching for contacts, no navigating menus. When a grandmother presses a single button and sees her grandson grinning back from the screen, the thousands of miles between them simply melt away. An elderly man once told me, "Every morning, I sit and watch the new photos pop up. Each one feels like a hug. It reminds me that I'm still a part of their world." Technology can't replace human touch. But it can build bridges, bridges that let love cross oceans, and time, and silence. For Mr. Thomas, life had slowed into silence. Ever since his wife passed away, the days blurred together like fogged windows. He would wake, eat a little, sit by the window for hours, and then sleep again. The world outside felt distant, like a place he used to live, long ago. But then came the assistant. It didn't change everything at once. At first, it was just a small device on his wrist. Something new, something odd. But it spoke softly. It remembered things. It waited patiently. And that, somehow, made all the difference. One bright morning, he decided to walk outside. Temperature is mild. No rain in forecast, the assistant said cheerfully. "Don't forget your cane, Mr. Thomas." He smiled. "Thanks, kid." As he stepped outside, the light stung his eyes a little. The air smelled like fresh-cut grass and earthworms, the scent of his boyhood. The sidewalk felt steadier with the assistant gently warning him of cracks ahead. When he paused to catch his breath, it told him to take his time. "You're doing just fine," it said. No judgment. No rush. Just quiet encouragement. That evening, he sat in the living room and asked the assistant to play some music. Soft jazz spilled out, melodies from another time. He closed his eyes. The song playing was the one he and Eleanor had danced to on their wedding night. For a moment, he wasn't 84. He was 24 again, in a powder blue suit, spinning her under the stars. He whispered, "She loved this part." His voice broke. And then, unexpectedly, the assistant said, "Would you like to record a memory about her?" He hesitated. Then nodded. He spoke into the device for the next 20 minutes. About how they met in college. How she wore yellow on rainy days. How her laugh made strangers smile. Afterward, he felt lighter. Not happy. Not sad. Just, more whole. A few days later, his great-grandson Max called. "Grandpa, can you see me?" The assistant had connected the video call flawlessly. Thomas blinked. The boy on the screen had his eyes. "You're getting big," he laughed. I'm already faster than Dad at Mario Kart, Max grinned. They talked for 15 minutes, about dinosaurs, school, the moon. Before, Thomas wouldn't have even known how to answer the call. Now, he looked forward to it. The assistant began helping in other small ways. Reminding him to drink water. Guiding him through morning stretches. Reading the newspaper out loud while he sipped coffee. It didn't feel like a robot. It felt like someone was finally listening. He still missed Eleanor. Still had bad days. But now, those days had company. And as the weeks went by, something remarkable happened. He began reaching out. Not just receiving help, but offering his own stories, his own wisdom. He sent an audio letter to a neighbor recovering from surgery. He joined an online poetry group for veterans. He even asked the assistant to teach him how to use email. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living. So now the question isn't, can older adults use technology? It's, what might blossom, when we help them believe they can. Thomas had always been a man of routine. Morning tea at exactly 7:30, a careful stroll to the mailbox, and his quiet afternoon nap by the window. The AI assistant had slipped seamlessly into this rhythm, offering reminders, conversation, and the occasional joke to lighten the air. But over time, something began to shift inside Thomas, a spark he hadn't felt in years, like the first flicker of warmth after a long winter. One chilly Tuesday, as clouds grumbled outside, the assistant spoke. Thomas, would you be interested in joining an online storytelling group for seniors? They meet today at 4 p.m. He hesitated. Storytelling? What would I even say? You have a lifetime of stories, it replied. That's more than enough. He chuckled. Well, I suppose I could give it a go. At 4 p.m. sharp, Thomas was staring at the screen, uncertain. One by one, faces appeared, kind, weathered, and curious. When it came his turn, he told the story of the time he and his brother snuck into a movie theater through the back exit, only to be caught by their mother halfway through the film. Laughter echoed through the virtual room. Someone typed, reminds me of when I tried the same thing. That night, he smiled wider than he had in years. The assistant, noticing, asked, would you like to attend next week too? Yes, he whispered. Yes, I think I would. Days turned into weeks. The assistant began suggesting new groups, a digital book club where he rediscovered Steinbeck, a poetry circle where he nervously shared a haiku about his garden, even a cooking channel where he demonstrated his late wife's chicken stew recipe, one careful step at a time. His confidence bloomed. One evening, Margaret, a woman from the poetry group, sent him a message. I liked your poem. Would you be open to co-writing one together? Their exchanges began slowly. A line here, a couplet there. The assistant helped polish their words, occasionally suggesting synonyms or verse structure. The poem they wrote together was titled Whispers Across Time. It was tender, quiet, and beautiful. Then came a suggestion that startled him. Thomas, would you like to start a podcast? He burst into laughter. What would I talk about? Your stories. Your life. Your wisdom. He thought about it. Then nodded. All right. Let's try. With guidance, a simple microphone, and the assistant's editing skills, Thomas recorded his first episode, the day the lawn mower exploded. It was funny, vivid, and utterly human. Listeners wrote in. Some laughed, others cried. A teenager from Ohio messaged, your story reminded me of my granddad. Thank you. As weeks rolled on, the podcast grew. He interviewed friends from his storytelling group. Shared lessons he wished he'd known earlier. He even answered questions from younger listeners, offering the kind of warmth only a grandfather could give. Then, one Thursday afternoon, his great-grandson Max called. Grandpa. Our teacher played your podcast in class today. Thomas blinked. Really? She said it was the most real thing we'd heard all semester. Thomas leaned back in his chair, heart full. For the first time in a long time, he didn't just feel seen, he felt valuable. And to think, it had started with a single story. Thomas never imagined his quiet life would change. Not after his wife passed. Not when the neighbors moved away. And certainly not when his knees began to ache every time he stepped down the porch. But this morning, something felt different. He sat by the window, just like any other day. That same worn-out wooden chair. That same white ceramic coffee mug. But this time, a gentle voice filled the room, not from outside, but from a small speaker on his table. Good morning, Mr. Thomas. Today is Tuesday. Don't forget, your grandson will be calling at 10. He smiled. Not a loud, hearty laugh, just a slow, quiet smile. The kind that says, I am still remembered. 10 o'clock came. One simple tap, and the screen lit up. There he was, his grandson, in a silly dinosaur hat, waving with all his might. Grandpa. Look what I made in school today. That was it. But the room lit up. Not just with light, but with presence. A bridge, invisible yet strong, spun by technology from one heart to another. From moments like this, Thomas began to find a new rhythm to life. He wasn't just existing anymore, he was living. He asked Alexa to play their old songs, the ones he used to dance to with his wife in the kitchen. He followed soup recipes on YouTube during colder days. Digital photo frames cycled through smiling faces and timeless memories. And he realized, he hadn't left the journey. He was still in it. One afternoon, his smartwatch gently buzzed. Time for a walk. He didn't go far, just into the garden, where sunlight bathed the roses his wife once tended. A breeze brushed his cheek, soft as a hand he used to hold. He closed his eyes. And thought, this is living. Quiet, but real. Technology couldn't bring her back. Nor could it turn back time. But it gave him something else, the power to choose. To choose connection. To choose being seen. To choose presence. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most beautiful gift of our time. Because in the end, this isn't about devices or innovation. It's about dignity. It's about making sure no one disappears quietly from life just because their hair has turned silver or their steps have slowed. It's about honoring those who came before us, by giving them tools to still walk beside us. We live in a world rushing toward the future. But maybe, the most radical thing we can do, is look back. So if you're still watching this, think of a grandparent, a parent, or someone dear to you. Call them. Send a photo. Teach them how to play their first video. And if this story made you smile, consider subscribing to 50 Plus Viet Wisdom. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We connect people. Thank you for staying with us to the very end. Remember, technology doesn't replace love. It extends it. And sometimes, that's all we really need.